The winner of the Auburn-Baylor Week 1 game will be going to the college football playoff.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans. Welcome into another week of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Monarch Money. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube. I appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day and making this the number one source for Baylor sports news by the fans, for the fans, not affiliated with the university. On today's show, we're going to be talking about how Week 1 Baylor-Auburn could already put a team in the college football playoff and why that's not a very crazy take. Plus, a Big 12 legend, some might say, announced his retirement at the end of last week. How much did that have to do with the Baylor Bears? And was the hit on Cam Rising dirty? Anyway, talking about basketball, Scott Drew has his eyes on his cornerstone of the 2026 recruiting class already, and he has got some awesome basketball ties. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Week 1, August 30th, Friday night. Can't wait for it. Auburn, Baylor. It's been running through my mind all weekend after we did the crossover on Friday's episode with my boss and good friend and great host, Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. This matchup is the one that's getting me fired up. Is it going to be the most important game of the season for Baylor? I don't know. That remains to be seen. There's plenty of Big 12 games that I'm looking at as well as possibly the most pivotal for Baylor. But this is a really good measuring stick for both these teams. And there's a lot of inexperience or lack of chemistry, I would say, mostly from the Auburn side, but also on the defensive side for Baylor too, that we're going to work out some kinks in this game, right? We are going to work some things out. This could be sloppy at times. It's Week 1 and it's a big time matchup. But it could be even bigger than just getting off on the right foot. It could be even bigger than getting to just 1-0. Because right after we recorded that on Thursday, I saw this post from a Twitter account that I actually do respect a lot, CF Budge. And they put their top 10 hot takes to enter the season. And number 1 being the hottest take of the offseason. And number 1 on the list, the winner of the Auburn-Baylor game is CFP bound. The hottest take of the offseason. And it's been mulling around my mind all weekend. I think it's just a little toasty. I don't think it's blazing hot. You might need an oven mitt, but barely. You know, if your skin's been through enough, you could probably pull that out of the oven yourself. I don't think it's that hot a take. Okay, because I think it's likely that both these teams start the year in the top 25. And when you look at 2 of the last 3 seasons, we have had teams that were not ranked in the preseason top 25 get into the college football playoff at the end of the year. And so while Baylor might not be there to start the season, we've seen that happen in the 14 playoff 2 years ago with TCU. And we saw it last year a couple of times over in the 12-team playoff, and we're going to continue to see that in the 12-team playoff. And we said it on the show, and I know I say it on here a lot. We said it on the show on Friday that Baylor brings back a ton of really important positions, that guys who excelled at their position last year. Auburn went out and got some great pieces out of the portal. I'm always a little skeptical, as I am with Tech, about how quickly that starts to click. But like, they did get kind of the best of the best. It was really Auburn, LSU, and Tech right at the top of these rankings. And I think Auburn's got a coach that's been there before. And I said it on the show as well on Friday. I like Jackson Arnold, man. I was sitting here 2 years ago thinking about how he would be the future of OU. I was one of those people, hook, line, and sinker. It's tough for me to just completely disassociate from that 1 year later when he's playing for Brent Venables with the worst running offense in all of major college football. There was a lot going against him. And now you put him in a quarterback happy system with Hugh Freeze, who hasn't seemed to find the right guy at Auburn yet. And if he's that right guy, like they all thought like every coach in the country thought 3 years ago, and like everyone at OU thought 2 years ago, then maybe Auburn's got something. And on the Baylor side, again, they absolutely have all the pieces to get there. And this is probably a 2-bid league in the Big 12. So if they make it to Arlington and make it to that conference championship, bam, you're there. And I don't think there's, not that it should be the expectation, but I don't think there's any reason for them to not be in that discussion in Arlington. 10-2 gets you there. I think Baylor can do that. This is the best quarterback play they've had in a decade. This is the best offense they've had in a decade. And they have some good, stable pieces on the defensive side of the ball. And I know we've kind of gone back and forth on whether this is the case, but I still think Dave Aranda's got that defensive genius in him. So who else would you rather have to lead a defense that you need to put some parts together for than Dave Aranda? And whomever wins this game is absolutely going to carry momentum through their first month of the season. Auburn's got a couple of cream puffs after that before they get into the SEC schedule with A&M and Oklahoma. The Big 12 schedule, maybe. Baylor, on the flip side, then has to go to SMU the next week, a college football playoff team, home against Samford, and then home against the Big 12 champs and another college football playoff team in the Arizona State Sun Devils. So whomever wins this is going to feel pretty good, man. They're going to start farting and rolling up the car windows. They're going to be feeling so good about themselves going into the conference schedule. Or in Baylor's case, facing another CFP team the next week at a neutral site game on SMU's home field. So I look at this and I say, well, both these teams probably could deserve a top 25 ranking to start the year. And if one of them beats the other in week one, then they should potentially skyrocket. And from that point, you've got a team that's got the confidence and got the pieces to absolutely get to the college football playoff. I like the things I see from Auburn. Obviously, as I've talked about on the show, I really like the things I see from Baylor. So that's what makes this such a good matchup. They are two teams that, whether they are in the top 25 or not, the nation is sleeping on them. That's why this was CF Budge's number one hottest take of the offseason, because nobody's really, outside of this show and maybe Zach on Locked On Auburn, are giving these teams a chance to win the SEC or win the Big 12. And yet both of those leagues are going to be multi-bid leagues. So even if they're in the conversation, they should be there. And what would be so great is if they play in week one and then again in the first round of the college football playoff, hopefully in Waco again. Wouldn't that be something? A non-conference team going to the same place twice in a year. I don't think it's that crazy. I really don't. I think Baylor's got the pieces, and I think Auburn is figuring out the pieces on the fly to be in that college football playoff discussion. I do want to talk later this week about how many teams are truly in contention in the Big 12, because I know that is a thing every year, that there's no clear-cut number one. Obviously, the team that was picked to finish last year won the conference. So I just want to see how many contenders there are in this conference, but Baylor should absolutely be in that discussion. And Auburn, at best, is in that next tier in the SEC, which still gets you in the playoff. All right, it's not Georgia. This year, it's probably not LSU. It's not Texas. But that second tier, that gets you in. Ask Tennessee. That gets you into the college football playoff. And before I get out of this segment, I do have to say, I've said this before, but we get a lot of rage bait fans into the comment section and watching these videos and listening to the pod when I talk about their team. Auburn fans have been really the best outside of BYU, and with my recent history with BYU, it might be time to give Auburn the crown. They believe in their team. They also don't immediately dismiss. Most of them don't immediately dismiss Baylor because they're in the Big 12, and don't immediately dismiss the Big 12. So I appreciate these Auburn fans. They kind of know their ball a little bit. They know some ball, and Zach Blackerby definitely knows ball. That's for sure. The only two Locked On college football shows with perfect scores in the last month, by the way, Baylor and Auburn. Big fun there. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about another Big 12 team. Cam Rising is hanging him up. He is out forever. It took long enough. But is Baylor to blame for that? And did they pull some dirty moves to end Cam Rising's career? Let's talk about that next on Locked On Baylor. But first, let me ask you a question. You ever look at that bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment. It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO. It gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money, it ain't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing that money and you start building wealth. Don't have to juggle multiple apps. It's all in one place. Check your finances, track your spending, long-term goals, all there. And if you want to manage money with your partner, it's smoother than ever. Again, you can track the shared and the personal accounts. You can set your goals on there, and you can stay on the same page without any of the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE, for half off your first year. A big blow to our Big 12 brethren. Cam Rising has announced that after 7 years of college football, he is being medically forced to retire from the Utah Utes. And I know there was some part of the Utah fan base holding out the hope that he would not be done, but it appears that that is the case here. After starting his career at UT, also in the Big 12 at the time, he goes to Utah, goes to a couple Rose Bowls, wins a couple Pac-12 championships, certainly one of the legends of that program. Right up there with Alex Smith, legends of the Utah Utes football program. But he made it clear in his announcement of his retirement that it was the hand injury that he suffered in the Baylor game last December that is ending his career, which led to a tirade from Utah fans on social media. Unsurprisingly, even though a lot of them had come to the Baylor side after our beef with BYU and the tampering and the money and the Rob Wright thing, they're not on Baylor's side anymore. Maybe once in a blue moon, when they start talking about the Cougars, they'll come back. But they're pissed. And they've been calling out Baylor fans on social media. It's been a back and forth. And it led me to go back and watch the play. So obviously, I can't play it because it's from a broadcast, so I can't do that. But it's Trevin Ma'ai who is, tackling / wrapping up Cam Rising. They go out of bounds. Rising goes into the water cooler. It does something to his finger, to his hand. He actually does come back later in the season, suffers a different injury, and now says it's the hand. I can't do it with the hand again, right? I believe that. And so the question that I first saw was, did Trevin Ma'ai end Cam Rising's career? Based on what we heard of why he's retiring, yes, Trevin Ma'ai did kind of end Cam Rising's career. Was it dirty? I still say no. 8 months later, 8 months after the fact, it's not a dirty play. It's an unfortunate play. It's a really unfortunate one at the time because he gets knocked out of the game and now ends his career. It's doubly unfortunate. But it's not a dirty play. And I know Utah fans are still sticking by that. And at first, like genuinely in real time when I saw it, or the first replay when I saw it in September, I said, oh boy, that's a little nasty. That's kind of a dirty play there. Like that was my first thought. But then I realized, oh yeah, and I think every sports fan should realize this as it's happening. Oh yeah, I'm watching this in slow motion. Because when you watch the play, Trevin Ma'ai, Rising is out of the pocket. He's running. Ma'ai has him wrapped up, okay? And he's going towards the sideline. And you see, once they get over the sideline, he lets go. That's what you're supposed to do as a football player. Let's go. But the downside of that is physics, okay? They're two really big guys with a lot of padding that are going full speed, and then all of a sudden he lets him go. And he's trying to get out of the way, and I think he kind of hits, like as he's trying to get out of the way, kind of hits Cam on the way down, and he goes into the water cooler. They take out an athletic trainer. It's a nasty scene, and Rising's out for the game. This was not Trevin Ma'ai with one arm on him, riding him out of bounds, and then pushing him with two hands. That's not what it was. That's what Utah fans want to think it was, but it's not, okay? And anybody who's played any sport with a helmet will tell you that, like, in that moment with Trevin Ma'ai, all you can see is, Cam Rising, the back of his jersey. You can't really see where out of bounds is. Once he gets there, obviously the whole bench is yelling low, let up, let up. And he does. And Cam Rising at that point is right in front of the water cooler. This was not intentional. This was not dirty. It was not a cheap shot. I'll agree with you. It's bang unfortunate that it ended Cam Rising's career. That sucks. But it's not dirty. It's not what you think it is. This is not Ndamukong Suh in the Lions days. Not at all, man. And this doesn't count for whether it was dirty or not. But from Baylor fans, the context that it was Trevin Ma'ai, who's like the nicest, most mild-mannered guy ever, like that's who it happens to, or he's, I guess it happened to Cam. I don't want to say Trevin Ma'ai is the victim here. But like that's just a weird feeling. You could be a nice guy and be a dirty player. I think Rodney Harrison's a nice guy. He was kind of a dirty player at times. Like it happens. But it is kind of interesting that Trevin Ma'ai is the one who's caught up in the middle of that. So nice, so soft-spoken, so mild-mannered. If you saw him on the Pete Souza show, who does a lot of Baylor stuff, by the way, Pete Souza, he did an interview with Trevin a few weeks ago, and he was so kind, so nice. And you just hear that guy, and you're like, yeah, he intentionally ended Cam Rising's career. It's not true. And in reality, two quarterbacks' careers were ended in that game. One was Cam Rising and the other was Daquan Finn. I feel for Cam, though. Like, he battled a ton of injuries. I know this is the one that's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, but it would have been very tough for Cam Rising to be playing any more football next year anyway because of all the injuries he's had in the past. But he got a 7-year career out of it. It's unfortunate that it ended that way, but it was not a dirty play. So did Baylor end Cam's career? Cam Rising, not me. Try as they might, as much as they might like to end my career. They did. Baylor did end Cam Rising's career. They didn't do it in a dirty way. No chance. And I'm using the term like ended the career pretty liberally here because, again, Cam Rising did appear in another game. He did come back and play in another game. But it's like Boobie Miles in the Friday Night Lights movie, right? Like that first game ended his career. He came back for 2 plays and was messed up after that. Same thing that happened to Cam Rising, right? So yeah, I don't understand how I watched the replay like 14 times this weekend. When you consider the fact that we're in slow motion here and not in real time, I think you start to realize, oh, this was just unfortunate. This is just the unfortunate effect of a hard football play. And guys playing full speed at a contact sport. Maybe that's just my 2 cents. I'd love to hear what you guys think, especially if you're a Utah fan. I would love to hear what you guys think. Are you still holding that grudge against Baylor, against Trevin Ma'ai? Are you going to be out for some revenge in Waco in 2025? Because I did see some fans looking to end Sawyer Robertson's career, which, I don't know, kind of stinks, but hey, passion rules all of us at some point. Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, find us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts as well. I appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day. Help us on the road towards 4,000 subscribers. We're so close. We're so close. And we need your guys' help. All the Baylor news, all the Big 12 news going on around it. It's your one-stop shop right here. We're not done yet, though. The podcast rolls on. We've got to talk about basketball. We got to talk about Scott Drew's next great high school recruit. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. Jumping it right back, Locked On Baylor. I'm your host, Cam Stewart, ESPN Central Texas. Talked a lot of football so far. Let's get into some basketball a little bit. Scott Drew's really got a plan for the future. Obviously, a lot of his time has been tied up in like this year's future, but down the line. And he's starting to get some more guys out of high school. Guys who will be here more than 1 year. Tonde Yesufu will probably be here 1 year. But you look at Andre Iguodala II. You look at Mayo Soyoye, who they also just signed in the 2025 class. Those are guys who are going to be here for a couple of years. Looking at the 2026 class, Baylor is now pushing really hard and is now the on-3 favorite for a 4-star who will probably, he's on the high end, will probably become a 5-star at the end of this cycle. Elijah Williams from San Antonio plays at TMI Christian or something, which I think really stands for too much information Christian. But he is a high 4-star. He is one of the most coveted prospects in this class, in the 2026 class, I should say, not like some of these guys who have played, who they've gotten out of the 2025 class here recently. But 6'6", small forward, 170. Still TMI Episcopal, by the way. TMI Episcopal. Too much information, Episcopals, but is slated as a 93, which is really the high end of a 4-star, really 94.5 and above. You are a 5-star. He is seen as a top 20, top 25 recruit nationally, depending on the recruiting service. And the kid has got all sorts of explosiveness, and he's got great basketball lineage. You guys remember the story a couple months ago about this old NBA coach who had just gotten fired from an NBA job, and now he's coaching a high school in San Antonio because one of the reasons is because his son's on the team? Oh, yeah. That's former NBA Coach of the Year, Monty Williams. That's interesting. This kid, Elijah Williams, has the same last name and plays at a high school in San Antonio that's coached by Monty Williams. Yes, this is the reason Monty Williams doesn't coach in the NBA anymore. He's just getting the next generation of NBA players, including his son Elijah. And there's all kinds of big-time programs going after him. And the Texas Longhorns are after him as well, which doesn't fit into big-time programs necessarily for men's basketball, but you know what I mean. But Baylor's been pushing really hard, apparently, over the last few weeks, and now they're about 50% from on 3 to land Elijah Williams. 50% out of 7 schools. That's pretty good, right? That leaves everybody else to make up the next half of it. They do have some Big 12 competition in Arizona as well. West Virginia, I believe, had offered him too. But you look at the highlight tape, man. He's explosive. Not quite Tonde Yesufu, but that kind of offensive arsenal where clearly he's still trying to figure out more of a 3-point shot, but can get to the rim on anybody and really uses his size well. It's funny. I mean, I don't consider myself like this big time scout or anything for any sport, but when I watch his hoop mixtape, I could tell like this guy's the son of a coach, because even in high school, like you can see him hunting mismatches. And then instead of like taking an open 3, just backing down a guard who's covering him at, 6 feet when he's 6'6" and backing him down all the way into the paint and scoring. Like he's got these really good basketball instincts that you can already see on film, and the explosiveness is there. I mean, the kid can pull down a backboard if he really wanted to at 6'6" at 200 pounds. This would be a nice addition for Baylor. You hope that he's kind of one of those fringe guys who is a 4-star, comes in, probably isn't necessarily a one and done, but will actually stay for you for a second year. Baylor thought they had 2 of those going into this year, right? With Rob Wright and Jason Asamoah. And you got the worst of both worlds. You brought in 3 hoping 2 would stay. One of them is going to be a top 5 pick of the draft like you knew, and the other 2 are leaving, gone. One's in your conference, and one's up at a place where they haven't been to the NCAA tournament since 2009. So you're hoping that Elijah Williams fits right on the fringe of that. Now, this is a couple years from now, but fits right on the fringe of that he can be a really good impact freshman, but not a one and done, but not one who's going to go and try to get a couple $1 million from a bigger program. At least that's the goal. But what I like to see is a mixture of these guys, a mixture of your Elijah Williams and Tonde Yesufus, but each class having a couple of guys like Andre Iguodala II or Mayo Soyoye who show real promise, but will stay in the system for a couple of years and be the leaders of those teams down the line. but it's still good to get really talented players out of high school. No matter how much I don't like the one and done thing, it's still pretty nice to get that kind of talent injected into your roster. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's completely free and it helps me keep my job. And I like my job. I like being here for you guys. You can also find us, of course, wherever you find your podcast as well. That actually helps me out even more, if we're being totally honest. Thank you guys for making it your first listen today and every day. Let's tell your friends about it. Let's get those subscribers up to 4,000 before we go to 3 days a week here, which is just in a couple of weeks for the summer. Appreciate you guys. Thanks again for making it your first listen today and every day. And we will see you tomorrow on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.